Midnight in the beltway of industrial parks that surrounds Toronto. Darren Atkinson is about to dive into his work.
It's about me. Can you imagine that? Anyway, this is, I know what this is. This was shot by CTV and Anton Koschany in 1997. It was that winter, I believe there was an ice storm. Anyway, it got edited down to a little bit like this, but I went out for 5 days with this reporter who was investigating what I was doing. I had an article before this in Wired magazine. And I thought we were I was gonna get across something I discovered back then, but it didn't happen. So we ended up with a short video. We'll watch this first.
Into his work.
I'm a technological pioneer or a prospector.
A prospector mining technological slag heaps outside the temples of consumerism.
If it's made by humanity, it's going to be in the garbage sometime.
Every night, Atkinson cruises this industrial wasteland.
Well, other than the garbage truck and the weather, I've got no natural enemies out here.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous.
He's 31. He spent the last 5 years.
What happened was about this time played almost 1,200 shows in a band, had tried to build a recording studio, and technology was changing. Put in for factor grants, been on tours, you name it, right? Worked on a film, went to the Amazon on 2 documentaries, and I realized it's a rich man's game. So I thought to myself, I was doing little things on the side my whole life. Thought, why don't we expand this, and this will become like my rich uncle that'll pay for things. So back in the 90s, by 97, I was full bore, and I had a recording studio.
Figuring out where the best dumpsters are, who's got the most valuable junk.
I'm core sampling, so to speak, here. You go
Core
down.
sampling?
Yeah, you go down in the middle to see what's in areas.
Everything has value.
Used print heads are worth $10 each to $5 to $10.
Those print heads, old print heads, like for dot matrix printers, I knew a guy at Tansen Co. that used to actually remanufacture those. He'd give me anywhere from $5 to $10 a piece broken. So one of the highlights for me is I used to sell broken stuff. It's my highest achievement for parts. But if it's worth enough, the machinery originally, the parts that aren't provided by the supplier or available otherwise, they're worth something. So selling broken things is viable.
Security guards leave him alone. After all, it's just garbage. Or is it?
Oh yeah, here we go. There we go, look at that monitor.
Okay, I went, woo, you know, like Ric Flair or some redneck. See, this is what they did to me. There was more to this I'm going to tell you at the end, but they just picked the most ridiculous stuff for edutainment, as they used to call things back then. You know, and I thought we were going to have something important that was informative to the public, but here we go.
Monitor. Oh, isn't that a baby?
It may not work now.
Yeah, if it doesn't work, I can fix it.
Fix it? Dig a little deeper.
They decided to give me extra parts, look.
He's found and profited from it all.
A quarter of my stuff has French printing on it that's not being read by people.
There you go. Right there, even back then. People couldn't read the French, and with the head offices being here, they just threw it out. There you go. There's efficiency for you, Canada.
Biggest find, unused movie film.
Thousands and thousands of feet of it.
And how much money did you make?
When it was all done, $18,000.
That was AGFA. They stopped making film in Canada, but AGFA is the #1 film in the subcontinent of India, and they make a lot of films in Bollywood. So a guy bought all this off me, so many pennies per the foot. So it was a deal. That was a quick deal too back then. $18,000 for a bunch of film in real cans that were dented.
Once junk back at his warehouse, it's cleaned up, repaired, and with the help of an army of...
That guy right there, Mike Legault, Bones. You can't see him through all the hair. And we're in a place that used to be a fur storage hut in Kensington Market with a whole bunch of punks, and I had a little room in there.
Generation X pals, Darren sells his booty to electronic surplus stores. During summer months, he sells direct.
My musician buddies that were broke would come to me and go, hey, you got all this stuff, what can we do? So I said, well, just take it out on the street. We had a garage sale in the parking lot that was right there. I don't know, you know, but it worked. People didn't have to do other things they might have done that wouldn't have been good.
For Darren Atkinson, his offbeat lifestyle is the means to an end. He was a drummer, nearly bankrupt, and found success in garbage.
Let me clarify that. I was a drummer, but when you're a musician and a drummer full-time, you are bankrupt. You just don't know it when you're younger because you're too stupid to know that. So anyway, I just thought I'd clarify. I was bankrupt, probably.
This is my goal. I want a studio.
Today, this studio is almost ready to go. Built with cast-offs, speakers he's repaired, keyboards he's found. He makes about $30,000 a year, trades the rest for his dream.
Now, that studio had 28-foot ceilings, and I culled together all paints and sorted them by colors, and the place looked great when you came in. It looked like a proper recording studio. And yes, the wiring, the patch panel, the glass from the control room, the 2x4s, everything came out of the garbage, and it was pretty cool. I'm in Pro Sound magazine, same issue as Puff Daddy. His studio was worth tens of millions, and I got mine out of the garbage. So if you can find that Pro Sound magazine, it's pretty funny too.
Why don't you just get a real job?
That's an interesting concept. What is a real job?
See, that's the respect you get. You know, you do something, and I'm going to tell you what I was trying to get across that I did put in here. And what's the guy do? He goes, why don't you get a real job? You know, I can say that to anybody else too. And now think of it, from 97 to now, there's lots of people that worked in factories in Oshawa, different things. Our country's been gutted. What is a real job? That's a good question, isn't it? My job is safer now, or my methodology is safer than the jobs people used to call real jobs. Could you imagine those people that were brought to their knees and lost their houses? Nobody's worrying about them, particularly Meritori and Doug Ford right now. It's just a disaster zone that they won't admit's already happening.
Darren Atkinson insists this is his job. Every night we'll find him looking for the big haul.
Microsoft project. We got a ton of software. Publisher, it's out of hand.
Tonight, behind a software distributor, he's hit the mother lode.
Sony DAT tapes. Claris Works. It could be worth anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000.
Finding success at the bottom. Anton Koschany, CTV News, Toronto.
There you have it, folks. So after 5 days, that's what they came up with. Back then, what I wanted to get across was that we, with our recycling programs across the modern world, create less demand on the landfill local to our cities. What that does mean is that companies then can just dump anything they want, which they do back then and now to this day, with no repercussions, which means that you're subsidizing industry for the last 20, 30 years, for the most part, and the recycling programs in effect, if you look at the carbon footprints there and the give and take, it's completely ineffective. As a matter of fact, you're achieving nothing. Can you imagine that? Except that you're lowering the price for companies that want to dump in landfill here. Meanwhile, we'll ship our garbage to other jurisdictions like Michigan, where it has to go to landfill where there's slacker laws, or the Philippines where they declare war on us, like somebody sold a whole containers of garbage, or Turkey or different places. Well, they'll just take the plastics and bury it. So you're not getting anything done. The truth is very ugly. Recycling is a bust for Toronto. It does nothing except spend money and lose money, and it's completely ineffective. And you're making it cheap for the companies around us to use our landfill right near us, while we still even send our stuff out at a loss. Garbage and recyclables. That's a disgrace. I know that. I'll take you there. If you want, I'll show you. By the way, if you like hearing stuff like this and subscribe, please.